There'll be no room for my snack.
For your snack?
You need a little side
It's
table.
an light.
We'll get you a side table.
He's always trying to spend the town's money.
Try to spend my gas tax.
Yeah, trying to spend this.
Yeah, he just ran up
Now, careful on that. We got a
$4,
whole list on it.
It
$4.05.
might be an inappropriate authorization.
That's right.
Spend the gas tax money on the table, is that what you're saying?
Somebody went crazy this month. Yeah, one of you guys went crazy.
We were asked to put it on the
Yeah,
agenda.
blame
We
the
did.
town
You're
council.
making us earn our pay.
You want it on there,
Big
it's on,
bucks
here you
and
go.
We did take
Well, a lot of
time to
people got
address
bags.
those issues right away.
Well, yeah.
Are we all ready? Okay, let's call the April 23rd Finance Advisory and Audit Committee meeting to order. Roll call.
Chair Lung Chu,
Here?
Vice Chair Elise Ryan,
Here.
Committee Member Virginia Standish,
Here.
Town Manager Mark Cutney,
Here.
Bill Underwood,
Here.
and the Town Coordinator, Office Coordinator Steve Hainline. Absent is Committee Member Cheryl Miller and Ken Johnson.
Also, we have residents.
Introduce yourself.
Yeah.
March Herzog.
Bill Liang.
John Ryan.
Okay. Number 2, item number 1B, approval of agenda. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
I move to approve.
Motion by Elise, seconded by Virginia.
If you don't, we won't have an agenda.
Any discussion?
This is going to be easy.
All those in favor?
It really
If by saying aye?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 3-0. 1C, appointment of chair and vice chair.
What?
Is it today?
Just as a note of clarification, in April, the town council goes ahead and they redo their officers, and we're having all the committees going ahead and reaffirming the new appointment of chair and vice chair for the coming year.
I nominate Long Chu.
So you don't get nominated.
We have a motion by
My motion?
And do you second or?
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you
Second.
nominated and I second.
Okay.
Any discussion? You guys don't want to do it?
You can keep it. You're doing such a good job.
Thank you. Thank you for the
I'll keep doing the
nomination.
report if you want to
Thank you,
nominate
thank
it.
you.
but,
Thank you, appreciate it. Thank you. So all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. We have a nomination for vice chair.
I nominate Elise for vice chair.
So that means give it to Elise. So I will second it.
Okay.
I will second it. So
Okay.
you decided it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Opposed 0. Okay. Motion
there
carries.
you go.
Okay. Congratulations, Elise, and congratulations to you. You maintain the privilege to be your chair for another year. Item number 2, consent agenda. Minute, March 26th. Do we have a motion to approve the minute?
I move to approve the minutes.
Second by Gina. Discussion? I have 2 typos there. Just one 2 typo. On page 3, change the council to committee. It's committee member Virginia here. One is on under 6A, same paragraph. The other is the last paragraph, beginning council member.
Yeah, it needs to be committee member stated.
Need to change it.
Been
Try to
promoted.
promote you.
No, they're trying.
And then other one.
Yeah, you're on the committee, you're the council member, but the rest of us are committee members.
That's news to me. I'm still playing catch up, so.
On page 4, I'd like to clarify the second paragraph. When March was talking about the question about the bank being acquired, I would add the word future at the end, future acquisitions by other bank.
Page 6, right?
Page 4, yeah, page 6 on the master. Yeah, on the second paragraph.
Yeah,
Yeah, by other banks, I think they will.
yeah, that's what.
I keep
yeah.
thinking future equity, buying what? Buying a car? Okay. That's all my clarification. Any other changes? On the recommended motion for the approval of minute, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Uh-huh.
Aye, opposed, motion carries 3-0. Old business, responses from banking services, RFP 2012-001 proposal.
Yes, Chair, Committee, we sent those questions, that we waited probably a little longer than we're supposed to. We were waiting for questions or comments from the committee. We did send requests out for various items, and we think we captured what this committee wanted, and we asked Bank United and Wells Fargo. The question is delineated basically on page 4 or 5 of the minutes. It appears that as far as positive pay with Bank United, it's about the same number of updates per day as Wells Fargo. The return at the bank said that they were not going to be sold. They had no plans on being sold. In fact, I think they said something to the extent that they're looking at buying somebody. Wells Fargo indicated on their side that, yes, and I guess it was to their credit, they encouraged the town to do the non-interest bearing account so we could move the money into one of 3 different areas, all of which are roughly double the return that was offered by Bank United on top of the fees.
Where do you get that? Is that page on?
Well, mine's a color.
The highest one was 0.215.
The highest one was 0.215, 0.195, and 0.193, I think.
Yeah, but they're giving us 20 basis points above.
But the differential is you have to take out for the reserve requirements under.
A $300,000 reserve, right?
I think
Well, 260 was 10%.
it reduced it significantly.
Mm-hmm.
That there's nothing reduced from here, or very little.
But you are, well, that's,
The dollar value in the response is
I think there is something reduced.
If Wells Fargo earned 10 basis points on the available investment versus the 20 basis points by Bank United, it would be roughly equal. So anything above 10 basis points under the Wells Fargo would be more than what was made off of Bank United.
Can I share some numbers that I put together? Just take you
Certainly.
through it, and this is what the way I read it, and I know 2 people can look at the same document and read it 2 different
Right.
ways, but I was trying to figure out, I thought that Bank United spelled out very clearly what they were going to charge us and what they were going to give us, so we know what that number is, but I wanted to put Wells Fargo in the same format.
Right.
And here's what I got. If you want to pass these around.
Now, I would still encourage the committee to have the 2 banks make a presentation to you.
You would?
Because
Well,
because
okay.
I'm still interested
Cheryl was
in,
at him.
Did you get one?
I'm still interested in if they're responsive.
Well, this is just what I got out of it, because I was trying, I just wanted to know how much we're gonna get, and, okay, I took, now, the Bank United, information, the fees, and the top set of numbers is Wells Fargo, the bottom set of numbers is Bank United.
Oh, okay.
And then the handwritten formula is the formula that I use to calculate Wells Fargo's required balance to offset their fees. And I got it right out of the RFP. It's in there in the RFP, yeah. So basically, Wells Fargo, he wrote on his Form D that the fee would be $390.21, and that he would give us an earnings credit of 25 basis points on 100% of balance. And And so but that's an earnings credit, that's not interest.
I
Okay.
understand.
So, but in order to get $390, I calculated that we would have to have a required balance of 1.9 million. Because if you use this formula, which is what he's got in there, the average collected balance of 1.9 times 30 days times 0.0025 divided by the number of days in the year gives you $390. And that's what your monthly credit would be if you had. So you could basically, the way I read it is he's telling a bank, Wells Fargo is saying, look, you've got to put 1.9 million in the hole and you're not going to get interest on that. We're going to.
See, I didn't
Now
bring-
that's what we need to
Right.
clarify. If
Right.
we're going to get interest on that, then you're right.
The whole, I'm going by the
Does it say we're
the
gonna get interest?
response is
Well, that's
that-
what I haven't been able to figure out. Are we going to get interest? Because clearly on
Well,
Bank
what we get,
United.
what, as I recollect, I did not see anything in his regarding 1.9 million because the non-interest bearing account, those costs were de minimis. Wouldn't have been 1.9.
No, but what I'm trying to figure out is how do they care for the earnings credit in this?
Well, all we move the money out of the account, move it into one of these three, it earns interest, money only goes in there, sweep it back in when it's needed to pay a bill.
That's all you do. And there's no requirement then why do they have
Yeah,
that
Bill,
formula
respectfully,
in
banks
there?
don't do that.
No, banks do that.
No.
Sweeping accounts, right?
No, I'm
That's
not
sweeping.
talking about sweeping, I'm talking about giving you a balance that you need to maintain for coverage of fees and then
There-
allowing
there's-
you to earn interest on
There's
it.
two ways to do it. You don't have, I've done both. You don't have to pay, you don't have to have any compensated balance, that's first. Second, you can pay the fee exactly as it comes through. I've done both mechanisms. Accounting-wise, administratively, the best way to go in my whole career has always been pay the fee, never do the compensating balance. However, you've got to have staff dedicated to make sure you're doing all the counts.
So what you're saying is we just pay the fees and then,
Everything earns interest.
and then we're gonna get.
That's the best way.
Okay.
Yeah, in either bank, Bank United or Wells.
It makes no sense. to
It's
give-
always been
It makes
there.
no sense to give an earnings credit if you're not requiring the balance to be there to earn the credit.
I understand.
Okay.
And
So
I think
what
that's-
I know what you're
that's-
saying. You're saying that we could,
Do we even come out ahead in either scenario? Because,
The best
The fees-
scenario
well, I'm just
is
saying,
not compensated balances.
right, but based on the fees that either bank charges, it still looks like they're ahead of the game.
Well, here's the
For Wells
thing.
Fargo's fees are less.
No.
No, they.
Well, perhaps not, I'm looking at Elisa's statement.
Well, I understand, but
right.
if you.
that was,
The presentation, and if you do the per item fee, it's $1,100 a year less. $192 a month, if you had one item of every.
okay, I see what Bill's saying is that we would have the option in Wells Fargo, or in either bank, really.
You could.
Just take their interest rate, which they said, and pay the fees, not use the balances as
You
to
can.
offset
The only
fees.
difference
It's an
is-
option.
0.2% or 2.15%. I mean, there's no big difference. In fact, when you're looking at these fees, Wells Fargo is giving a credit of 0.25%, but they're only allowing you to earn interest of 0.215. So they're giving you a credit, an earnings credit of 0.25% to cover the fees, and it takes $1,900,000
Well,
to
and I
generate.
guess that's where the discussion is. Does it really take $1,900,000? It should not take as much to generate fees for them as it does for Bank United because they are cheaper.
But I took this right off their Form D.
Yeah.
I
I
understand.
mean, I got it right from their RFP,
That's why I would still recommend
that they
have a
come in here.
presentation.
Yeah, I will go along with that.
And speaking of presentation, then I would have a question, and here it's.
And the place to ask is when we get there, so.
Right, but no, I have
yeah.
a question here for the committee, if it should be a question, I just wanna understand this. In their response, they put, you know, and this, I believe, is similar to what was already in the proposal, sounds basically like the same thing, into allowable investments traded with our fixed income desk. Are these the only 3 allowable investments for the town that we can do? The town has no other options for investments?
Well, what happens? No, we do. We could go to the State Board of Administration.
Right.
We could go to there are 2 local government investment pools. We could go to either one of those. I haven't read the town's investment policy.
So in the future, when rates actually come back up, that might be something to do in the future? But I'm just saying, if you go with a bank
It's
now.
something we can talk about.
Right, if you go with a
Actually-
bank now that gives you this, how
Actually,
does that work
the
for
best
that?
way to go, and I would recommend, is that the town consider going with the State Board of Administration. Their interest rates, they're not great, but they've been climbing. And I think, but they're running, I just got a report.
So that leads me to,
27.
okay, so that leads me to my other question. And when these 2 banks come in, comparing them, if you have something like the State Board, how would that work with a Bank United situation and the State
Same.
Board? I mean, I'm
Well-
saying, do you keep the bank account, or do you only deal with the state? Do you
No,
have?
you keep the bank account.
Right.
Because the State Board does not write checks.
Right, so if you went with a Bank United and the State Board, what would the scenario be?
Same type of scenario. That the money, excess funds would sit at the SBA, Tallahassee, and when you needed the money, you wire it down.
Which you would incur a fee for, there'd be fees.
Oh, some are not too bad. It's actually better if you do ACH debit rather than EFT, than wires. Wires are more expensive. At any rate, between the 2 fees, there's no question in the analysis that I looked at that Wells Fargo was cheaper on the
Yeah.
fee side.
But why then did they have a higher rate on Form D? We might have to go back and look at actually if they.
I didn't bring it with me.
I have Form D here.
That's why I was
So-
thinking, when I saw these 2 responses, that it might best be that they come in and lay it all
I
out,
think
and
you're-
say, here you
yeah.
go.
It's in the back.
Yeah, I've got it tabbed.
My desk file.
So we plan to bring them over at our next meeting?
I would think that would be the way to do it. Well, it may not be most opportune, only because you've got other issues that you're going to be addressing.
The other question will be too, being that week presentation is due, if we want to move the meeting to the community room at the Chamber of Commerce.
Well, you-
That'll give us a little more room. to
That would be
spread out.
better.
They have better audiovisual materials and so.
Well, you may not want to, because this committee's got a lot of work coming up real fast.
You do? The budget.
Budget, the CIP, the CIE.
Construction.
Pardon?
Do you have it? Did you find it?
When you say
Wells
form, just
Fargo.
remind me, I may be
There's
thinking,
a Form D that's in here. I don't know if
I may be thinking of it something else. I had everything highlighted from our last meeting. I had put Post-its, we were talking, I think, about it last week.
Yeah, well, it's the form that, I know it's Bank United, it's right here.
Wasn't that the one that
This one.
delineated?
Oh,
Well,
that's all the way in the,
There was, delineated the fees.
I just took, for Bank United, I just took the first month, but there's so little difference in the other months, it doesn't really make. They said their fees would be $321 for 1 month, $323 the next month, and there's one more.
And what would happen is, you took and you you plugged in Wells numbers in those same spots, it's gotta be less.
No.
It wasn't, it was more, it was $390, and that's why.
That's very
I'm looking-
peculiar, because there was,
I understand, I'm just,
I don't know what was different.
Well, one reason that the dollar amount of the balance is less is that Bank United was giving you 0.4 earnings credit.
No, I don't care about that. The cost is the only thing I care about.
Okay.
I mean, when I looked at the detail, Wells was $100 a month less in cost, regardless of the earnings.
Well, I know I had this page
Yeah,
is in.
there's, no, that, it's the page before, right? at the
I think
bottom.
you have
Yeah.
it. This is what, December, you should have it too,
Oh,
right?
that's, no, I'm looking for Wells Fargo.
Oh, I'm
Wells
sorry.
Fargo.
That's right. This is-
Somewhere he had
It's in the same, it's in here.
$390. I'm trying to remember. I think that was on there for me, but I don't have it with me.
Here it is.
You found it?
No, I did that from the last meeting.
Oh, the table, it's a table
It was a table that I put together for the last
with
meeting.
information from each one side by
Mhm,
side.
mhm. I got $390 for Wells Fargo. It's in here somewhere.
Yeah.
But we don't need to look for it
No, I
next
pulled
time,
it from
we're just
mine.
gonna move on.
Well, I still think that it'd be good to have both, because
Yeah,
regardless of, if Wells gives us these good numbers, that's nice, but if they don't come in, then,
I think it would be fair that, Bill, that, I know that you are saying that we're gonna sweep the money overnight, that at least it's calculated on given rate. Make sure when we ask a question, we do both calculations and keep to them and let them explain it,
Yeah.
rather than to ask different questions. I think it's easier, because Bill have another approach.
yeah,
well, I was a little shocked that Wells, what their thinking was, okay, well, if we don't, you get a non-interest bearing account, you move all the money out, you bring it in when you need to, and
So we at least like to appreciate you.
but I understand
you
what you're saying,
put
you know,
all
you don't need to
together.
worry about the earnings credit, just look at the interest
We're gonna
and,
sweep everything.
and then subtract, and then pay the fees, if the net makes sense, yeah, that's,
Well, that makes sense if all you're looking is what interest you're gonna earn, but if they've got fees that have to be covered, you have to set aside a portion of the balance, that's a simple,
no, you just
No.
write a check once a month.
well,
you
either
just have
that.
them draft your account for the amount of the fees,
Yeah.
and then
So
pay
the-
you the interest.
So what you're saying though is that if your opportunity is to earn 0.2% or
On 100% of the money.
No, 0.21% on the amount of the balance.
On 100% of the money.
No, listen, to put apples to apples, you're
Right.
trying to see what you could earn by having $1.9 million invested at 0.21%. You could earn approximately $390. So if all you're doing is putting $1.9 million at the 0.215% rate
Right.
and earning $390 and paying $390 to the bank, logically, you haven't earned anything.
Well, I understand.
Well, that's why
We're
I at
gonna
least
have
put it
to
on the basis
see
you
if-
did.
Yeah.
But what it earns is really, the issue is what it costs.
Well, it's gonna cost, whatever it costs. Now, at least
Well-
calculated $390 or found that in there.
No,
And all I'm saying is to earn $390, you gotta put $1.9 million to work.
I understand.
So you only got $1.1 million to earn net interest on.
And then in that case, but that's not what the plan is that he outlined.
Okay.
We better have that
Well,
presented.
We need to get them to present it. I mean, you're familiar with these things, I don't know how they work in reality.
I just
you
know that the best deal I've ever had, I paid the fees every month.
Okay,
There was no
pay the
complicated
fees and take the
balance.
money and run. And
Yeah.
that's- Yeah,
That's what I did.
okay,
So we will, do the calculations and then, give to them ahead of time, and they could speak to the subject that we
Now,
want.
do we,
Yeah. At least can you,
do you want to try to do it in May, or you want to move it to June?
whichever is.
well, I think we,
Because May's got a couple of quirks in it. One is, the traditional meeting night is the holiday, 28th.
Memorial Day, huh?
So we would have to move it maybe the week before, the week after would be June already. So,
Let's do it when you have a light agenda.
I'd like to, none of these agendas have been light.
we haven't had a light agenda.
So what-
I think we have to, I think we should play it by ear because we don't know what we're gonna get into with the capital budget. you know,
And there's some big issues.
that we're gonna have to deal with. So we'll postpone it until we can bring them in. And, till
Well,
our
I've
chair
got some,
sees that we have an
I've had a
agenda.
request from TD Bank. They want to know the status. Is it okay by the committee that we advise them that they are no longer in the running?
I thought there was, they already
That's
They
correct.
can't
disqualified.
That's correct. But we haven't notified them.
Okay,
We'll, next phone call, we'll tell them that they're not in, we're with these two.
okay.
And we'll try to, we'll look at where we're gonna set this up and keep everybody informed. I got everybody's email address.
And I would again ask that just when we do this, since it's supposed to be a long-term relationship, and I would be interested in hearing how they say this would work if we went with a state bank investment situation. Just, you know, what they can offer and do if you did that or not, just, you know, in the future.
See, the SBA went up. Did the school have money in the
We
SBA?
pulled most of them out.
Did you get it?
I think we pulled almost everything, every penny.
But it's,
Well, people lost money on the state fund, and that was the problem, that's the issue, you know, we're not sure how, they always pay
oh,
a
I
higher
thought you
rate,
said that
but-
most of it had been recovered, or you were just talking about your,
No,
There
no,
was-
most of it has been recovered.
Yeah,
There's a little bit. and
It was
there's-
tied up for a long time.
That's the issue.
well, I guess I would be interested in just hearing, because you always hear the town council say, you know, well, what are we going to do with the money? How is it going to make money? So I guess what I'm saying in a generic statement is when they do come in, if they can give some input and as to staying with the future, how they would suggest the town can make money.
I think that what we would have to do, if we decided to go with the state fund, wouldn't we just pull money out of this account and put it in the state fund? That's all we would do, we wouldn't,
Yeah.
they wouldn't have anything to do with it.
There's nothing they could work, okay, that's
I
fine.
don't think so, no. I think they just.
You just deal with, well, the
The
council.
town handles that.
The council passes a resolution, says, okay, to do with state board. There's an automatic and irrevocable, here's where the money goes to, here's where the money goes to, and the money goes back and forth, and no other place can it go.
So the only fault is that they pay interest rates, the banks pay interest rates.
Yeah. Well, it's your trade-off
My
is always
recommendation, I was gonna say, my
risk, you know.
recommendation would be June 4th, because there's a very good possibility that the land use plan amendment for the school and the shopping center is gonna be May 21, if council is agreeable.
June 4th for what? For-
Presentation, and you
Oh.
next meeting.
So that will be our next meeting. Can we do it on June 4th? Please,
I
June.
can, yeah.
June,
Unless you do it other than a
June
Monday.
4th.
June 4th?
Yeah.
Okay, is that a Monday?
Yeah.
Remember,
Well, that is-
excuse me, remember Mondays and Thursdays are bad for Cheryl Miller.
That is true. Good point, Stephen, thank you.
So Wednesdays are, because
Wednesdays
Tuesdays you
are-
have your town council, right?
If that's the case, you could do it May 22nd then, if you were thinking about moving it up.
Oh, I can't do that.
Okay, that's out.
I can move.
Did you say June sixth?
June 4th.
I thought June fourth was out
No,
for Cheryl.
I could
Well,
do, I
June 4th could
could,
be out because of
I
Cheryl.
could
too,
do
yeah.
the 22nd.
You could do the 22nd.
Yeah.
May
That's a
22nd.
Tuesday, that would work for Cheryl. huh?
Is there a town?
So that will be Tuesday.
It
It'd be a
is.
Tuesday, yeah.
Is she
Okay with
always
them?
having a problem with Mondays?
Or is it just
Or is it
tax
just
I think
season?
so.
Tax season?
Well, no, she's in enrolled agent school, and I think it's Mondays and Thursdays, right, Steve? Isn't that what she indicated?
I think it's what, 4 to 6 weeks?
Yeah.
She's going to work for the IRS?
She can verify.
She wants to be able to take them on and
Yeah.
challenge her.
That's a last one.
Enrolled agents are always working.
So, May 22nd, right? Okay. 7 o'clock?
May 22nd is what, is that a Wednesday?
It's a Tuesday.
It's a Tuesday.
And it's not a council meeting.
No, because the
No.
first is
The first and then the 15th.
The 15th, and the
Okay.
15th, we
All right.
may move it to the 21st if council would like.
Okay.
But are we gonna need to, are we gonna be able to have both these people present and still do the other things?
I don't know. Why don't we go, continue on,
Well, you
because the last thing on the agenda is.
15, 20-minute
With the
presentation,
budget
10 minutes
stuff,
questions,
yeah.
or 15 minutes and 15 minutes. I mean, you can have one, you can do it in an hour.
That's true. Okay.
Okay. Discussion. 4A, local option fuel tax revenue and expenditure.
Mr. Chair, I've actually received a request by one of the committee members to put this on for discussion. As statutes have changed as of, well, I don't know if the governor signed it yet. I heard that. But it goes into effect July 1 regardless.
Which bill was that?
That is the 599?
Yes, and it's fine.
I think that's.
Not the 2012 bill?
1768 or
Yes.
whatever.
Transportation mitigation, and we gave you I guess, this looked like it was a cleanup bill that was carried over from 2011, where it died in both the House and the Senate, but this time it appears as though it's made it all the way through. We highlighted on page 56 of your agenda, the summary of legislation passed, and what they did.
What page is it, Bill?
It's 56, it's in the top left-hand corner.
56?
Yeah. And it speaks to the summary of this particular,
9-cent fuel tax.
and expanded the allowable use of revenues collected by the tax to include installation, operation, maintenance, repair of street lighting, traffic sign, traffic engineering, signal, pavement, no markings, everything.
Okay,
Um,
and this has passed, right?
That is passed, it's waiting for the governor to sign.
Is that 9 cent?
No, it's all,
9 cents is county.
9 cents is county, 7 cents is county, 9 cents is county, but it did more, it expanded all the allowable use.
But it says, and the local option fuel tax, so
Right.
that would be,
My understanding is that the differentiation now is that before you could buy the stuff, you just couldn't pay for the power and the water service
Right.
too, basically is what this is saying, you can cover everything.
You can do it, with the exception, I think, that maybe the 1 to 5 may still have a prohibition. There's this, the tax is called the second local option fuel tax. And it originally started with just 1, which was the 1 to 5. And then somewhere in the, I guess, 90s, they added the second piece of the second local option gas tax, which was the 1 to 6. 1 to 5, which came about in 1982 or 83, was specified just for infrastructure improvements. And they define infrastructure improvements in another, you got a
218.
Yeah, there's a whole litany of items that this statute, you gotta go to different
We have it,
chapters.
yeah. We
You
do,
know, statutes to follow where it's used for. And the 1 to 6 was adopted in the 90s. I always thought it was for everything and anything until 2010, when the Attorney General gave an opinion to the contrary. And the only reason I bring that up is because both the City of Miami and it was on Palm Beach County's legislative action to correct the legislation in 2012, which has occurred. Whatever the issues were, and I guess that has been resolved and the issues move forward. I think we may have other issues relative to that, in that it appears as though the gas tax is required in order to spend it to be incorporated into the capital improvement element of the comprehensive plan.
and that's what we need to talk about that.
Bill, I'd like to go over that with you in detail outside of this meeting, because I don't think that's right.
I have a question in regard to, something that I wanna find out if it was eliminated by this new bill. On page 23, this new bill that's waiting to be signed, on page 23, if we go back,
Okay.
I noticed, and again, this may be a moot point, but I just wanna confirm it's a moot point or ask how we deal with this. On page 23, towards the, in the part of the paragraph, number 8,
Mhm.
and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines down from the number 8. Well, actually, that's not quite true. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 lines down. It refers to that no more than an amount equal to proceeds from 4 cents per gallon of the tax imposed may be used, and it goes into detail of such expenses. Are we still bound by that? Or we're waiting?
I haven't seen what the new legislation is. We highlighted the except as provided in section 7,
Right.
the funds of infrastructure. The 4 cents, paragraph 8 tries to discuss it relative to very small counties.
Right, and I was wondering if that pertained to us, because it says small counties, or, and it, there's all this date, prior to 1992. And again, my question, and again, then maybe this is between the town and the water district, but I thought it might have to do with us in the audit committee. Since
Well, it's an
our
audit.
responsibility,
It's
yeah,
an
to make
audit
sure
issue.
that we don't exceed the 4 cents on this particular tax.
I've never heard of anything related to a 4-cent tax.
Well,
It just means you, on the particular tax it's referring to, say if it's 5 cents, we can only spend 4 cents of the tax. Is that my understanding?
well, then, you gotta go on 4 cents pursuant to paragraph 1A, so then you
Yeah,
gotta.
it's talking about county.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's a minor detail, but it could cause a problem.
No, it's talking about county, we don't know what
Don't forget, we only get like 1/3 of, it's shared at 1/3 of the, what, 1 to 6 is 1/3,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
the 1 to 5 is
Yeah.
21%.
I
And then
thought it was
that's
20.
Yes.
Okay.
divided among all municipalities, so the county is getting the bulk of all that.
Well, the reason I'm questioning if it's referring to the town, because it refers to, or the governing body of a municipality within such a county.
But you gotta be in that 50,000
Yeah.
population county.
Okay.
I mean,
That's all, I'm just
I was more concerned.
Dotting
with-
my i's and crossing my t's in the reading. I just want to make sure I understand.
I was more concerned with transportation expenditures and infrastructure. And whether CIE, CIP, it appears that it
Wait,
was.
John does need to talk to you about
Yeah,
that.
I need to go over that with you, because I think we
He's-
got an exemption.
He thinks that our roads can be treated differently because they are OJEM and not asphalt, and he'll explain that.
Oh, I'm,
They're not paid.
right, but
They're
I,
not
but I
paid.
don't, but I don't, I don't have
I'll
an
go
issue
with
with
that.
that.
Yeah, I thought
I don't
that's.
have an issue with that. The issue is,
What's your issue, Bill? I'm not
well,
sure.
in the capital improvement, you have to have the capital improvement element, whether you're gonna do.
No, no.
Not for putting down the OJEM.
Well, then I don't
If-
think you can spend it at all if you're not
Yes.
saying what you're gonna
You-
do.
We
No,
say in our
you can say-
comprehensive, plan very clearly, no new roadways are planned within the town of Waxahachie Groves.
Right,
Therefore, the future roadway network is planned to remain the same as existing roadway network.
Bill, the word "or" that's in a section related to paragraph 1B, which is the 5-cent tax,
Right,
for expenditures needed to meet immediate local transportation problems. So that's the "or."
well, I
And
understand.
we can make that determination, and we don't have to involve ourselves with the capital improvement plan.
And that, I guess, is up for the discussion, because who determines that it's an immediate need versus a not immediate need
oh,
versus,
yeah.
I mean, I understand there was some language
We did the
relative, if you
improvements
can't
for-
get, if you can't get an ambulance there, you can't
No,
get
we did
postal
it for
there.
safety reasons, and that's what the legislature accepted. And they accepted whatever delays were inherent in the humps.
In which legislature, I mean,
When we did a local
When the
bill,
water control district did their bill.
we did a local bill to confirm the easement rights to do the work. And it was done on the basis of safety.
I understand that.
All right, so you don't need to worry about this in this discussion. I'll go over it with you later, and then we can formulate an opinion for Mike Cirillo if necessary. But it's, you know, kind of, you've looked at it one way, and I don't think that's right. So let's discuss it and then give it to Mike Cirillo.
Well, I've looked at it, Mark's looked at it.
Yeah, I think you're dismissing it rather casually.
Well,
Just kind of like,
the word
and
or.
maybe it's
is
just
key.
that we're used to governments being governments, and they have capital improvement elements, they have plans to do something for the community. that-
In fact, if you look at the history of the tax and the comprehensive planning program from 1985, they dovetail, they're going hand in hand.
They were.
That's how you were going to meet service levels. Unfortunately, in our plan, we're saying we're not gonna do anything, which is a very
But we're gonna
serious
make-
situation.
We're gonna make a determination of expenditures needed to meet immediate local transportation
Well, what is,
problems.
what is it gonna cost us to file capital improvement element as part of our comprehensive plan? You know,
I don't know what
You don't know what
the
the
other
cost is gonna be.
capital improvement element was.
But Mark, you're saying, that you think we need to modify our comprehensive plan in order to be able, for the town to be able to, pay for the resources?
Well, yeah, our comprehensive plan and the transportation elements and the capital improvements elements is very, very, very sketchy. I mean, we don't talk about our roads at all, with the exception of, if you look at our plan, they talk about Okeechobee, and they talk about Southern, but Southern being a state road and Okeechobee being a county road, basically.
But I'm just surprised that the state would even care if we're gonna resurface a road, because, it doesn't really change concurrency or.
No, it doesn't.
You know,
Resurfacing does not.
That's correct.
It's new growth
we're
related.
just
It's-
stabilizing it, really, you know,
It's
is what we're doing
stabilizing
it
the
for
surface,
safety
it's
reasons.
not paving, it's not hot mix, it's not impervious, it's
No,
pervious.
and I like the stuff.
You know.
Yeah,
I
when
mean,
we
it's a-
speak of it here, are we speaking of it as far as the town and its agreement, then, you know, the town's portion and then the agreement with the district? Is that like two separate discussions, or it's all one discussion?
We're talking about what's applicable for what
What
gas
the town
tax
should-
can be used for.
Right, for the
And
future,
then
for the
we-
comp.
Does the town, if they're gonna pay for these expenses, need to modify the comprehensive plan, which
Right.
costs money? So that's what we're, you know,
Yeah, the specific expenditures that Bill may be concerned about would be North Road and the non-wrap segments and F Road, but not the others.
I mean,
But I think the exception is in this
well, the
paragraph.
county, you know, the county certainly paid for it, the resurfacing of F Road, and I'm pretty sure they used gas tax money for it.
I don't know, I do know that county commissions during those days were afforded somewhere in the neighborhood of $300,000. They called it discretionary.
You could have
funds.
used discretionary funds, yeah.
Not gas tax, it was just discretionary funds, and they could spend it any way
All
they
right, so,
wanted.
well, we have to nail this down, and I think Mike Cirillo's, you know, if we have to go to him, then, you know,
Well, can you still use gas tax? I mean, maybe I'm reading this wrong. You've highlighted another section on page 25 where you talked about purposes of things like paying for a building for temporary needs. And what is that referring to? Is that referring to use of gas tax money again?
Yeah.
Page
Paying a
25
building to
is
be
the-
used as
These are
shelter?
the definitions.
Would that be something that'd be put in a comprehensive plan then, or no? That's
Yeah,
just town
you-
council stuff?
That is all eligible to be
For
put into
gas
the
tax
plan.
money, put into the comprehensive plan if you redo the plan?
okay.
I mean, at some point.
This has not changed with the 2012 bill.
Not to the rest of my
Yeah,
knowledge.
this is just a definition of how they determine infrastructure, how they define.
Right, there's other things that can be done besides,
Yeah, but
Just the
somewhere
roads.
in the 90s, we determined that fire vehicles and police vehicles were infrastructure because everybody was crying about the cost.
Yeah, they have a lag of 5 years, I think, right?
Yeah, so, yeah, 5-year lag.
Yeah.
well, and it even discusses construction lease or maintenance of a facility, public facilities.
The capital improvements elements, aside from your capital improvements program or budget, were designed to identify those areas where you needed to upgrade your, or at least maintain your service levels. And that's why it covers all those elements of the comprehensive plan: drainage, transportation, recreation, open
Right.
space, utilities, those kinds of things.
Because I noticed prior to, there was a section on maintaining canals.
Yes.
Yeah, there was
It's
even,
eligible.
that gas tax money is eligible
Eligible for
for,
canal
we need
drainage
to do dredging canals as part of the road program.
and mowing the canal banks so the water goes away into the canals.
It's too complicated for me.
So does
So
it just have
what
to
are you
be?
saying, well, the reason, only reason I asked you to put it on the agenda was that you had brought it up in the town council meeting, and people, you know, there wasn't enough time in the council meeting, I guess, to discuss it thoroughly, and people didn't understand what you were saying.
And,
So,
and I think, I haven't gone back and reviewed, I think I said I just have concerns, and before we commit that, we need to make sure that we cover all the bases. I believe that's
before we
what I
commit,
said.
what, the,
Gas tax money,
to be used for the wraparound road?
whatever we're doing with it, everything.
For example, you responded to Councilman Giroux, I believe, that you could go capital improvements fund, or you can go capital improvements monies, or you can go contingency.
That's correct.
That's what you said, but not
I
gas.
didn't have any issue with that.
Yeah,
I was just concerned about
Right.
getting caught somewhere in the gas tax mirage.
well, we've got to figure out how to spend our gas tax money,
Okay.
Well,
because we've
the-
got the money, and
You're
then
going on the list of things we can spend.
Can we
There's a
spend
whole
gas?
list of things.
I know.
Spend it on.
I know you had some legal opinions in here too. I noticed there were some legal opinions in here. Can we spend gas tax money, like in our contract with the, I realize it's so, I'm actually in construction, I can't even think of the word right now, contractor service
Yeah, we
relationship.
hired them.
Right, their subcontractor. Can we pay for their, as part of their submitted invoices, is it all right to pay for their equipment leasing and their gas and things like that? That's,
I don't have that answer. I mean, you're supposed to be buying a product.
right, well, service, we're buying a service. And how they choose to
So-
spend it is their,
That's theirs, but what is the service that you got in response to that fee?
because I saw a lot of the invoices had equipment lease, fuel, and that I assume is just the backup for the service.
Right.
That is the best I can tell.
Okay.
I mean, they're technically, according to the agreements and by the policies of the FAAC, what should be occurring is, before you do a reimbursement, you should have a canceled check and a copy of the invoice that you're reimbursing for. And we don't have that in these items.
Yeah, the approach that Clete took on that was that over 50% of the water control district is spent on roads. So he divided up the expenditures so that that portion could be presented to the town as part of the reimbursement for the gas tax portion that the town was contributing toward those expenses. Now, logically, if the district's budget is approximately $1.3 million, and over half of that is for roads, so over half of that would be $650,000. And if the amount of gas tax money that was being requested was, what, $150,000?
Now, there's two different pieces.
Yeah, there's two.
Yeah.
Okay, 150,000.
There was
Yeah.
a 200 and 150, or 240 and 150.
No,
I mean,
different years.
Well, there's
The 240 was a couple of years ago, the
Right.
150 and then 130, so you had 3 years. So I'm just saying, each year, if the district spends more than $650,000 on roads, and the request is to define expenditures equal to $130,000 or $150,000 or $240,000, Clete, for purposes of documentation, took expenditures recorded by the district for those amounts, which would easily fit in within $650,000. and ask for reimbursement of those.
I understand.
Okay, well, maybe.
I mean, I do understand.
What was your concern? Can you explain that?
Well, because I'm looking for, rather than a spreadsheet with, here's all these costs, I'm,
On it.
where's the canceled check? I mean, I could print those up all day long and say, send me money,
Sure,
and you never did anything.
yeah.
I don't know that you really did the road. I don't know that you really drained the canals. I don't know what you really did. All I have is this list of expenditures that they don't tell me the check number, they don't tell me the check date, they tell me the vendor, and they tell me what it's for, kinda, sorta.
They give you a posting date for all the expenditures, and then you just go to the district for the audited records.
But I shouldn't, that's not the town's job, it's go to the district. The town is the town. The
So
town-
what do you want the district to give you?
I think they get the canceled check and the service performed.
And we also want the administrator to sign off, which he refused
And, well,
to
the
do.
administrator's gotta sign off.
He refuses to do that for whatever reason. And
Yeah.
so he does.
I mean, Mark signs off on all kinds of things.
Well, I noticed the bookkeeper signed it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't
I
know.
don't sign anything when I do bookkeeping work for anyone. I was kind of
It should be
surprised.
signed by Cleve, I agree.
Yeah, I think she was just, as the
Judge.
person responsible for all the entries, certifying that these are
Well,
official entries
I
of
mean,
the district and their accounting records, which are audited.
And then at some point, I guess the issue becomes with the or language, if you've done this OGM, or, so when does it become a safety issue again? Because now it's not, I mean, you can't go back and redo it, I don't think.
I don't,
Well, because
no,
we're
you
going,
jumping around a little bit.
Yeah.
on the statute, you got the or,
The or is, or for expenditures needed to meet immediate local transportation problems.
so
Okay,
we have to define what that
what
is.
that is.
Excuse me,
Safety.
I'm just curious. Seems that this subject, you know, we're talking money here, and now we talk about the legality of spending the money. Isn't this a little bit beyond us? I'm thinking, you know, if we have a definition, issue of definition of usage of money, and let the lawyer handle it, let them interpret it. I mean, of course, John is welcome to give his input. I think to me, I think it's beyond this committee that we're discussing. I don't even know what are all these things. When I read this today, what are this? I don't, there's no write-up, I don't know what this thing for, I'm still catching up. Now I heard that, you know, we may not be able to use the money for that reason. So I really think it's a little bit beyond.
Now, I'm all for spending the money.
I know, I'm not saying that for or not for, okay? I mean, if we can spend, of course, before you guys come on board, I always complain about the town has done nothing to the citizen, including me. I'm very angry with the town.
Slush fund, I think you said.
We pay money to consultant, $100,000 every other week. It made me so mad. We did nothing for the citizen, but that's beside my point, okay? I think if we have concern about the way we spend money, deal with the lawyers, let the lawyer handle it. I think you bring it here, I don't know what we're supposed to do.
We were trying to get, if you had an issue, we were trying to see if we could understand what the issue was, and then fix the problem.
Can we
And
fix it?
that's,
Then
you
they-
know,
they're-
well, I think there's some things, we can't obviously interpret.
Now
the
we're
gas
talking
tax.
interpretation now.
No, but part of the
But there are
issue,
several, there are operational problems that.
Residents want to know you're asking, I think, the questions on their behalf,
I
like
know,
she's
but
asking.
my question is, I don't know what this agenda is for. I try to figure out what are we here to discuss.
discuss the use
I
of the
know,
gas tax.
because, okay.
And discuss, to the best of my knowledge, the use of the gas tax and what the requirement is for, because the FAAC has rules about what it's allowed
Understand
to
that.
pay.
Understand that. My question is, I'd like to see the legal interpretation of the section which allow us or prohibit us as
I'm all
the
for
town. I mean, I appreciate you all for it.
I am all
I mean,
for it.
because, you know,
think we gotta-
I think before
town-
we make some recommendations to the town council,
And I would
we
recommend.
need
the
to know
council
where
get
is our
a legal
parameters.
opinion.
I don't-
Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely.
I think, you know, our attorney and
Yeah, let me suggest that Bill and I get together
Yeah.
and formulate
John
the
just-
opinion, or the question
we-
for council.
We do have a interlocal, we have the joint committee meeting, you know, that is a perfect platform to just discuss it. I mean, if,
But it's financial. You know, the main reason, I'm the guilty person that asked
I didn't say that.
to put this on.
Oh, that's okay. I mean,
And
as
the
long as
reason that
we
I
know
did
what we are supposed to
was
do.
that he brought it up at the town council meeting, so at that point,
Actually,
Well,
You
what
know.
I got out of it, I did read it, I went through what I got out of it as a resident, not just as a member of this committee. I went through here, and first I was like, now this means we bet, you know, I looked at
It's
it.
a lot to
And,
read.
and I said, well, now my question is, as a resident, what can the town and the Loxahatchee Groves Water Control District do together with our road tax money? Can they, you know, can they take and patch those holes with the gas tax money? Like, because they're changing responsibilities. I see in here one section, they can dredge canals. So I think just from the, not even as a member of the committee, but as a resident, speaking for my husband in the house, who says, what are they gonna do with all that money? And
Yeah.
and I think it's a
That's
good
the
reason to have it on
question.
here. And
Yeah.
your question is, the lawyer needs to tell us what we should be discussing, and what you're saying
Not
is
necessarily, I think the lawyer
Or-
needs to give it at least some guidelines. We
guidelines.
use those and then we make,
I like opinions.
yeah, something
Right.
to discuss, because I know John is very familiar with, you know, the water control district side of it, and then, now Mark was talking about in the comp plan, we don't even,
I just,
Have the
I
provision.
just want the bills to
Well,
be paid, and I want.
Read the, on page 13, read the highlighted section there. I mean,
You're
that
calling
kind
it
of,
page 13.
page 13, read that first one, that kind of summarizes, this is on the 1 to 6, I mean, we knew the 1 to 5 was that way.
I think this is something the governing board has to
See
deal
what
with.
you're looking at.
Government board.
Yeah, I mean, the council and also the supervisor.
Well,
See, this was the original thoughts.
Ryan, where
This
tells
is
you where
out of
bonds
the-
can be
this is not
secured by
statute.
revenues that
Right.
cannot
They
exceed
just
10
write it
years,
out.
which the district makes sure of.
You go into that last line.
Last one, local governments may use the services of the Division of Bond Finance, is that what you're talking about?
Keep going, nope, you gotta go to that last line.
On the bottom of the page?
No, at the last line of that first,
For these purposes, the term infrastructure has the same meaning as provided.
no.
No, sir.
It says, has a duly, on the.
Oh, has
that
held
very
a duly noticed public hearing on the proposed use of the funds and adopted a resolution certifying that the local government has met all of the transportation needs identified in its approved
Comprehensive plan. Comprehensive plan says we're not doing anything.
okay. I
Okay,
got
so
it.
that's what
So
your
we've
point
gotta
is.
do.
That's-
Well, they
gotta-
just seemed
He's
like.
saying this sentence right
We
here,
could be,
I mean, with the new bill, maybe things will,
this
Well,
last
Hannah.
Clears it up.
is what he's
But you
emphasizing.
said
Here's-
the comp plan says
This
we
is
don't
what
have
I'm
any new network.
Where are you?
Is that what you
says
said?
no new roadways are planned, which is what,
Well, this is
with the town of Los Angeles Roads, therefore the future roadway network is planned to remain the same as the existing roadway network.
So this is really a
It
much needed
identifies, and then
discussion,
throughout the whole
really.
thing,
It's
Well-
it
important to the
identifies no
town.
It's
project.
very.
Because you're
the
not adding
residents-
capacity, you're not adding new roads, you're not doing anything. Everything else is an operational kind of thing.
Well, the thing
Which
is-
we would like it to be, that if we could use it as operational, that would be wonderful.
Sometimes I see that our purpose is to, get some issues discussed and out of the town, so you don't have to have them
Right here.
Okay, so.
in a council. But my concern over this whole thing, you know, has been that the district is, the town and the district really have to do their, and I'm speaking as a resident
What
and
this is an
taxpayer to
interpretation
both,
of this,
and we
this
want
is the statute.
both to work efficiently and
Right.
right,
This-
because.
That's
Efficiently being the key
Yeah,
word.
Yeah, and.
Is what you're
What
at.
do we,
Code.
this is good.
Ah, that was very good.
Let's keep the conversation one at a time, I think it's easier.
Well, I guess
because,
what I was saying is.
Our vice chair has some comment.
That it concerned me a little bit that I heard a lot of talk about, we're not sure, you know, what the gas tax could be used for, and the reason it did is that the district has to come up with a reduced assessment for those people that are on, that are paying for the OGM road. So they've got to restructure, and they've got to cut a lot of costs out of their budget for next year, you know, in order to do that. And they need to synchronize with the town and what the town feels their needs are gonna be, you know, and so, and it's gonna come upon us fairly quickly. So I wanted to make sure, you know, that if we can get some of those issues out of the way in this meeting and everybody's, you know, all on the same page, it might expedite things. But, you know, they're gonna either have to have more funding from the town, or they're gonna have to lay people off, and we're gonna need, you know, they're gonna need to know what are the service, you know, what level of service does the town want, does the council want on its non-district roads? Are they gonna?
We need to
increase
formulate
rating?
that council opinion, because if the town pays for North Road, that's reducing the wraparound portions that are essentially the costs of the residents that are on those road segments. So I think the only way to deal with this is for me to go over this with Bill and us to formulate a question for council. Because
Just as long as we get an opinion from the attorney.
Well, he meant attorney,
Yes.
he meant C-O-U-N-S-E-L. But the other thing, you know, that I was concerned about, you know, is looking at some of the billing that you put in the package. It looks to me, and this is an issue for our committee, because what we have is we have an interlocal agreement of grading that everybody signed off on for grading non-district roads, and it's based on $160 a mile. And then we have other bills being submitted, which we don't know whether the town is being double billed or not. And so it looks like to me, what we need to do, particularly since this may be bigger, is go to the intergovernmental committee and look at redoing at least the schedule that's within that. And, you know, I don't know if you want to provide, you're not going to the IGC meeting, right?
No.
So
Mark will be there.
Mark will be there,
Oh.
yeah. But, I
It
mean,
is- I think regarding the building,
yeah.
I think Mark will have to, will represent the town to, he can pick up the phone and ask clear any time. I don't think he has to wait until the interlocal do.
So they have their answer clear.
You don't have to, I mean, you can just go ahead and ask him.
But you already have. haven't
Just
you?
next door, yeah, just, you know, I
We
think
discussed it.
we have the right to question the bills. It is, I think you brought a good point. I'm sorry, I was kind of confused by so much paperwork.
Yeah.
My suggestion is that, since Bill doesn't like the bucket list, the punch list, I think this is a legitimate reason that this committee brought up, and then he promised that in the past that for issues that brought up by the committee, he's going to address right away. So I hope Steve is going to list out clearly that Bill is going to resolve it. Like, at least, number one, we get an interpretation of the rule and the law. Can we use the money? Now we have a requirement for the comp plan. All those things need to be answered.
Yes.
Thank
And
you.
we need to
Well,
make sure.
we
Thank
don't
you.
lose track of that.
Yeah, no,
In fact,
yeah.
I think later.
We're trying to figure out what we can do to help you guys to work more effectively and, you know.
Because I was under the impression that, after reading this, that they could automatically already go ahead and use the money for some of these services, but you're saying, no, it must be in our comprehensive plan, that they cannot go ahead and use the gas tax money for some of these things that are listed?
It appears, I think we have to take the position, we don't have that definitive. It appears as though, because gas tax and comp plan came about by John DeGrove in the 80s, they both came into existence at the same time. And the idea was gas tax was gonna help fund
Right.
the comp plan.
Right.
So they tied them, I thought they tied them irrevocably together, but maybe they have separated them. That is really the issue. Do you not have to have a comp plan, you can still spend away?
Right, because in this reading, it seems that there are some things that are already permitted, and I guess that is what he is asking for.
Right, but if you read all the Attorney General opinions across the board, none of them are sanctioning operational maintenance.
Well, now, I think. with the
Except
new
for now with the
strategy-
new bill, which may change that.
And nobody has billed for operational
Well,
maintenance. And
I mean-
operational maintenance was defined as like paying the electricity bill for traffic lights and water pumps.
I think Bill, you know,
But we're not losing track.
I don't think the council or the supervisor would like any surprise. So I hope that when
Yeah, we don't want
when you do a
surprises.
discussion, it's like you try to tell them, we're spending all the money, which is illegitimate, and that's kind of will worry people. But I think
Get the
behind the
lawyers,
scene,
clear it with the
need
lawyers,
to
basically.
Yeah.
do
Well,
some
that's it.
more-
Well, could you get an attorney general opinion specific to our town too?
We don't need,
Well, we.
No, let's
we-
stay
we
with
don't
our attorney
really-
first.
we don't want-
No,
Well,
no.
you do need it because it excludes us because of the comp
No.
plan is their
No,
interpretation.
we're not excluded because of the
They
comp
always
plan.
take
The
a
comp
very
plan only
liberal-
relates to the 5-cent tax for capital expenditures. It doesn't relate to the 6-cent tax for transportation expenditures.
But it's
As
up to-
It does.
we
It
gotta be-
does. You just read
It
it.
does.
You just read
The
it.
exemption is maybe
The
coming
statute-
now.
The statute does not say that. The
Oh, well, I don't know about that. Oh.
326 does not say that.
Why don't we leave it to the attorney?
Yeah, leave it to the
And I'm all for it.
attorneys.
We
And then
could-
Mark and Bill
We
will help
could
us
go,
out.
we could go to the AGO and
But
they
make
would
sure
provide
that-
an opinion for free.
Yeah.
We don't want the AGO opinion because they tend to be very, very narrow.
It takes forever.
and also
Yeah.
takes forever.
Takes a long time, costs money,
No, they're
it's-
free. They're free.
No, but the attorney has to
attorneys have
write
to
it.
formulate the
They have to
request.
formulate the request.
Question, yeah. But let's move on.
Okay.
Either way, they gotta give us
Yeah.
an opinion.
Yelise, do you have any other suggestion that for
Well,
you to
I just
follow up?
want to know, I just want to have a comment, and that is that I'm concerned about the water control district in the town. Obviously, the water control district needs to provide whatever documentation the town is comfortable with for these things. But I'm not sure if the town has given them the level of specificity so that they know what that is, so.
Ooh,
But maybe you
no,
have.
Yeah.
You have,
We've
okay.
got two councilmen who have been very clear what they wanted to say,
And,
Explicitly.
and it's, okay, so how is this gonna be resolved? That's my.
I don't know.
Well,
But one of the issues would be if Clete put a signature on.
so what is it
That's
that
one
you
of them.
need? I mean, can you make it just real simple and give us what you need that you're not getting?
Canceled checks, services performed, and signatures.
Okay.
Attesting that,
So you basically want him to pass through invoices or,
yeah, if he.
What,
if
you
he
want
wants-
payroll records?
If he wants us to pay that, then we should have.
So in other words, what you're saying is that the official accounting records of the district that indicate payroll records, lease payments, fuel costs, those items in the official accounting records are not sufficient.
Well, the invoices are, yeah.
What?
The invoice is
Yeah,
paid by Cleat,
right.
not
And-
Cleat's invoice.
but a payroll record, you're not gonna have invoices.
Right.
No, I would have payroll stubs,
Oh,
941s.
I mean, everybody has accounting records.
It's gotta be something that they can print out without having to excessively copy and.
Yeah, I mean, to copy payroll check stubs,
Yeah.
that's ridiculous.
Do they have daily worksheets where they
I don't know.
identify?
Yeah, as a matter of fact,
Where
that was
someone-
part of what Cleat submitted, was a dated record of work on the non-district roads. I mean, we're only talking about a couple $1,000s on these invoices.
Oh, I know,
because
that-
the issues have been raised and they haven't been dealt with, so no meaningful amount of money has been
It's
billed.
not a meaningful amount of money, but it is on, I mean, I think you have some legitimate concerns on the way that that interlocal agreement was written and, approved.
It seems.
And I want you guys,
question.
I wanna see you all comfortable with what we're doing. And if we don't do it properly, then we subject the town to the risk of having something overturned if we had an audit, so we need to make sure that you're getting documentation you're comfortable with, but it's also gotta be something that the district can practically come up with. And I don't know what that is, but,
Well, I just have a concern about requesting payroll stubs because that would have other people's private social security information.
Well, they would
And as an
block that out.
Okay, because I mean, I know
But
when
they should
we
be
bill
Social
out, we just
Security.
put number of people working
couldn't
the
they just
hours
give
and the
you
job
a
site.
payroll register that they print out? I mean, that's gonna be a.
As long as it doesn't have social security numbers on it.
Right.
And
I'm
if
just saying
Clete
there's some-
signs it, then, you should be, okay.
I think we hire the town manager to handle all this.
Yeah, we do.
And then
but
if
I'm
he,
just,
if he feels uncomfortable, I think the vendor, the supplier need to provide documentation, otherwise you don't cut the check. as simple as that.
Well, it's very
Well, that's
simple.
what
I
they
actually
do.
have two council members who won't
Yeah,
sign
okay,
Yeah.
the check,
Okay.
so it's very clear.
okay.
We
So I
have to
think
make
it's
sure
clear.
they're
Yeah,
satisfied and we're
okay,
satisfied.
okay, I think you know what you, yeah, okay, let's move on. Otherwise we'll be here forever and
Yeah.
we don't even have an answer. Okay, so we go on to number 5, new business.
The statements, and Elise did call me.
Oh, yeah.
And I looked at it again, Elise, and I'm going, okay, let me look. And then I saw what you
So
were
I was talking
referring
about-
to.
Yeah, okay.
And that is at the very end of revenue, it's like general fund, very end of revenues and expenditures, what the system is doing. It's taking a minus and minusing a positive, which is
Yeah.
a minus, which actually doubles up.
Mhm. Can you fix that? Just fix it, so-
I have talked with Pat, yes, we can fix that.
Okay.
But regarding the revenues, though, typically budgets are dealt with in absolute terms on the estimated revenue and the estimated appropriation.
Okay.
Here's a positive number for.
I'm fine with that, it's
Okay.
just that the.
Okay.
Now,
You are.
I looked at that, that is
What?
page
What page?
110, would be a good place to go look.
I don't think I have that page.
It's in the top left corner, it's kind of underneath the logo. And under the annual
4.6 at the
variance,
bottom.
it really should have been like, which fund? is
Yeah,
that?
that one would.
Yeah, that's gas tax.
Yeah, gas tax, 64.
The
Take it
gas
away.
tank.
Yeah,
So,
Yeah,
general
that's where I
fund,
spotted it first, yeah.
general fund really should have been a variance of
Which
228.
one are you looking at, Elise?
All right, you can look at any of them, but basically you got the variance, you got, okay. It looked, what I noticed was if the town's budget, if expenditures are, if revenue that comes in is less than budget, then the variance is shown as a minus.
Yes.
But if
That's
the
because we're not dealing in credits and
expenditures
debits.
come in, yeah, that are less than, it's shown as a positive number. Yeah, and Bill explained why they do it that way, but if that's the case, then you can't add,
A negative and
you
minus
can't
and
take
negative.
the two,
positive.
you can't take your negative
And add them
revenue and add them
together.
together to come
Yeah,
up with
'cause then we're like
$578,
$3
because
million.
that number doesn't make any
Because that
sense.
violates math,
It violates any kind of
It's-
logic.
even if it's municipal.
Well,
Yeah.
kind of odd.
So, correct, you're gonna correct it.
Yeah.
And,
And since we're on this page though, I did have a question on the expenditure, the non-district roads, 6 cent maintenance, the 22,367,68. You did say, there's some bills that haven't been paid, but I do see that because I've been looking at the number for the capital fund and I can see the capital fund, the OGM paving and all, we're not taking any money out of there, it seems to pay the Waxahachie Groves Water District either. That money's kind of sitting there, which I was wondering about. What, kind of to your
That's the-
point on capital improvements.
Yeah.
But I do see an expenditure for 22,367.68, so did something get paid?
Yes. I'm trying to remember.
That's, I'm sure it's in there, I was just
It
wondering, I
is-
couldn't find,
Which,
He must
what was
have-
the
it's
four
not the
roads? What were the
CNC
four
Ian
roads?
Trail?
152nd or 145th,
Were they,
This is the CNC bill?
Valencia Way.
Yeah, where
Oh,
we
yeah,
thought,
that wasn't paid to the water control district, it was paid to CNC level.
okay, because I
that
remember
was directly to somebody.
Ron was saying 8,000 for Ian Trail, and then I see this I see CNC at 24,000, so this must be part of that?
Yeah, that was 4 roads to
Okay.
clear vegetation.
So that's not the
That was
water
impeding
district.
progress.
That is the ore. That is the.
Now he's shaking his head.
No, Ron, John, you shook your head yes.
Were you shaking your head yes, or was that a no, John?
No, he's noting that somebody else got money.
That's an or.
You know, I just got the ore. I mean, there's ores in here that you need to take account of, and that's what Bill and I need to go over and ask the council to agree or not.
Yeah, at least we'll get an answer
Yeah.
that you're comfortable with, and I think that's pretty important.
Well, see, this is the only place, this is the place, I was looking at some of these other cities.
Okay, Virginia?
I just, we're
No, he's not
relative to
finished.
capital improvement plan and gas tax. Okay, I've worked at another city, 45,000 population. Their minimum threshold to get a hold of gas tax and all that is $500,000. This town is 1.2 million. or 1.4 million, the 3 mil equivalency. I'm going, man, how does that work? And then I went and looked at Naples, 18 million.
Yeah. Oh,
So anybody that, because it all goes back to 1973,
yeah.
and that's how you get a hold of gas tax money and your other revenues, which is all budgetary stuff.
Virginia has a question.
Yes.
We're going through the finances now here. I just had a question on page 108.
Yes.
Okay. A couple of things. I know the 2080 5.20 is under with services, but why are you under other services? Can we not say town management, or is that just the accounting code?
That's the uniform account
The
system
uniform, so
title.
it does, it's just your other services, that's how?
I would love to
Okay.
say professional services, but they don't classify.
I was just wondering, because I think we do have professional services somewhere on here.
Professional services or
I mean auditors
CPAs.
and cities.
Oh.
Architects,
Yes.
architects and
Yeah.
engineers.
So town
So they
management,
won't let me in.
okay, and then on election expense, down the page, the election expense for 297,710, I went through in here, I believe that includes payment to the people some of the people who staffed the election, some fees, but is there a charge for the building? I couldn't find that, is that in that fee?
No, no, unless,
Do you-
I saw something in here, $170.
Do we
Okay.
pay
that I
for the
couldn't-
school or the church?
church,
Well, the last election was a school.
school. We
You-
would pay for that.
You paid the church too.
Yeah.
So there should be an expense, a payment for the school, for the election in here?
I would presume so. yeah.
Okay, because I
I know
don't,
the election was,
I don't know if
It
it's
is
coming in
it's
yet.
a Republican.
I
oh,
don't know if it's coming in yet.
Oh, that's,
Right.
it could be that it's not in, is why it's not, because I saw all the other election-related information, and I didn't see, I mean, I'll double check, maybe I missed it.
Some of it, I'm still paying some elections in other places.
Okay. And then on page 109, I noticed the computer repair. At first I thought maybe there was a fixed asset purchase. I saw 3,247.98. And then it seems part of that, there was,
We have purchased software, we've purchased cables, we've purchased hardware, we've purchased,
but that wouldn't, the computer repair part for 3,247.
well, there was no other place to, that was not one item.
Okay, so yeah, so I saw a
It's a
couple of line
multitude.
items, so that's not technically repair.
It's not technically capital.
Okay.
It's really like a small tool, but I wanted everybody to know this is all
Right.
computer-related stuff.
Okay,
It's not somewhere else.
okay, because that,
I don't particularly like it.
no, but you've been talking about, so that's what I was looking for, and I noticed that you were talking about the costs of taking care of some things.
In fact, I think we have
Any other, Virginia? Any other questions?
Well, my one question, I guess, on page 111, just again regarding capital improvement program, just if, now I understand the linear park grant match, that $100,000 actually has a purpose, even though it looks like we're not spending it, it's actually showing that we can match the grant we've applied for, correct? So that really is having a purpose right now, even though it's sitting there showing that it hasn't been spent.
Yeah, it's gonna be less than that, because we use in-kind services to, as part of that match.
What do you mean
In kind and labor.
Okay, so there's, for the grant writing, is what you're saying, there's, but still that, we're required to match that grant, are we not? For the state, is that a state grant?
I think it's pretty de minimis on that one. It's not gonna be very burdensome.
Okay, I just,
The burdensome part is on me. We have to change my contract because if we get a grant, then I gotta pay for all the accounting and follow-up and administration and all that. And I know that this particular grant, there's no administration.
but for future grants, so they talk about it, planning and zoning, about being able to apply for grants when that college comes in, is what you're saying? Alright. So then you have basically $800,000 sitting here that has not been touched yet?
None of
For-
this has been,
Oh, no, but I understand that, I'm just
not even
saying,
dedicated to the best of my knowledge.
Okay, because when we talk about the roads and the gas tax and everything, this money is separate from the gas tax, is what you're saying?
That's correct.
Absolutely.
This is separate from the gas tax money that's sitting there, and for what would it be used then?
Well,
The things they.
Well, for example, we're coming up with a CIP next month, and you may see where, although I think we'll probably hit that million mark, we could end up spreading that out over some years, and there'll be a number of projects added to that. We have a listing of all the roadways that need further vegetative trimming. That may be a project. If the council wants to do any work to culverts, that may be a project. So we're going to take it. Right now, this was the infancy, the first time council actually adopted a CIP, but we didn't adopt a 5-year schedule.
So that would be for residents then, for the town, right, not the, because that's where I get confused when I say this on the capital improvement program. I just assumed this was money that was being used with the interlocal agreement with the water district.
It can. I mean, we could put together a capital improvement program or a capital improvement element that says that we're gonna have the district do X. They're gonna go do,
Right, but we have that gas tax money that can be used first, right?
well, that can be used also. 6 cents.
In October, it was very simple, where the council just wanted to delineate $1 million, and then they came up with 4 projects.
Actually, there was about 8.
Yeah, but they cut it down to their top 4.
Well, no, I combined them.
Okay.
'Cause I couldn't deal with it. I didn't understand it.
And the traffic light, we're waiting on because of at the last intergovernmental meeting, from what I heard with all what Okeechobee's planning, even if you wanted to put the traffic light in right now, it would, I believe Mr. Ryan was commenting on that we'd like to put the traffic light in, but I'm not sure if I'm remembering correctly, Mr. Ryan, you were saying it may not be, it would be a waste of money right now to put it in, is what you were saying?
No, I think Cleet was going over the fact that the county might impose.
He thought they had pent lens.
They had design drawings we were trying to get copies of so we could know where to locate it.
Right.
I mean, now, you know, we went through some roads recently where they had a foundation pole, so to speak, for traffic lights, and they could extend the arm out a pretty good distance. So the idea is that if we're going to put in a foundation and a foundation pole, we want to put it in the right place.
That was your point.
Whatever
Right.
the county does, we don't have to move it.
Clee thought there were design drawings that were completed, and they're not nearly close to being completed.
Right.
And the issue there is I have to work on an agreement with the county, because despite having a traffic consultant and a piggyback contract through the county, we want to ensure and make sure that we're not going to be on the hook for a whole bunch of improvements right now. If it's just putting a mast arm and a signal up is one thing, if you have to start doing turn lane improvements and all kinds of other things, that's gonna really
Right,
shoot
turn
that
it
up.
up.
That's got to be the agreement with the county. Hey,
That's right.
We want to put a stoplight in that conforms to your plans, but that's it.
Yes. You don't wanna do your road for it.
We don't want to do your road for you.
Well, we may not have to do their road, they're just gonna tell you gotta fix D. You need to turn lane it.
So the CIP that the money was talking about, we're gonna have a 5-year plan, and then so that will be changed from here. We earmark $1 million here, so when we,
Well, we could reallocate
so.
Yes.
Okay.
for next year, depending on what we do end up with. See, typically, Mark and I have worked together in the past where the CIP did not resemble the CIE, and that creates issues. The CIE is the comp plan piece of the CIP.
CIP is broader, because that's where you'll get into buying capital assets like police cars and equipment, where the CIE is related to those actual service levels that you have to maintain. In theory, if a development's gonna come in, all those service levels have to be met.
Right.
And if they're not being met, then you're supposed to be using the CIP and the CIE through the CIP to get those things done.
So the CIE is part of CIP.
Pardon?
So the CIE is the part of the CIP.
Yes, it's the important part, because it's the heavy infrastructure costs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What does it stand for?
Capital improvements element.
Oh, Okay.
And theoretically, you're supposed to, I think there's like 7 areas in the comprehensive plan.
Yes.
It's supposed to go in the CIE if you have one. The issue is, in jurisdictions that are planning good, the CIE and the CIP mesh.
What is your plan for the detail of CIP? What is going to be our approach?
We're hoping to identify various projects.
So is it by year?
Yeah, there's
And then by projects in at least more detail, more refined, and then get the
Funding
dollar amount, the
mechanism.
budget.
You know, 1 year is only a budget year, the rest of it is more of a planning
Planning
exercise
yeah.
where you're
Where
identifying
you gonna do
projects.
the next 4 years?
You're going to have the council to workshop on it, and then get input from the citizen, from the residents.
Well, it'll probably be a regular meeting or one of their workshop meetings, I would say, it depends. But see, that's that's probably our top priority, I would think, and
That's
we're
like-
gonna be having a discussion with council on May
It's
first about
very,
that.
it's important.
Because I have a lot of top priorities depending upon who you're speaking to. That's a
Of
nice way
course.
of putting it,
That's
tonight.
right.
Thank you.
That's why you have to have a public discussion.
Yes.
Absolutely.
We have a lot of top priorities.
Okay.
I just had 2 more
Yeah, go ahead.
things. I noticed we have a lot of animal issues. We have 3 alligators.
yeah.
The fine point of Waxahachie Groves, let's get this on the record. We had 3 alligators removed from the canal. We had a pig removed from the canal.
Which canal?
Now, were these dead? I hope these were dead.
I
They-
know.
They were
We're not getting rid of the real thing, I know.
What's that page, Virginia?
This is page 126. You had 3 alligators from Collecting Canal.
Collecting canal?
And I think on, there was another one somewhere on North Road. And then, but my point in bringing it up, I noticed that, and a resident brought this to my attention, and I had asked Mark about it, and he explained that the reason the fees are different was, I think I'm saying this correctly, you explained that it's based on where the animal is located, whether it's on the side of the road or in the canal, you get a reduced fee possibly.
Well, we attempted to do that. Actually, when I believe the question came, I believe it was a dog that
Yes, there's
Marge
dogs.
had pointed out to us,
Yeah.
and when we called Butch Lowe, who was our vendor, we were looking to get a reduced price because we felt a dog being picked up on the side of the road was a much easier exercise than having to go into a canal to get an alligator carcass or a pig carcass. And Butch Lowe's response was he still has to pay the same amount when he goes to the landfill to dispose of the carcass. But we kind of pushed it a little bit and said, well, this is a dog and it's a little bit easier. We think you could give us a reduced rate. And that's actually what we got. And you can thank Mr. Hainline for that tough negotiation with Mr. Lowe.
So what was the price we paid? Because it started at $250, it was 100 another place.
Well, we've been
and
getting
150.
150, I think, is the standard price we're paying. I think of that one, what do you charge you, 100? 100, yeah.
Okay.
That's correct.
Under protest.